Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Well, if you've been watching any of my previous videos, there's been a lot of discussion about the wood wide web, the mycorrhizal fungi networks underground and how important they are for the food forest. In this video, I want to take it a step further and talk about what we as gardeners should do to help the wood wide web. And the more we help it, the more it will help us. Make our food forests productive and trouble-free and self-maintaining, self-fertilizing, and take care of pests and conserve moisture, do all the things that make our garden successful. So how do we help the mycorrhizal fungi? Well, there's several things. The first thing that comes to mind is it's not what we do, it's what we don't do. And that is, you don't want to use chemical fertilizers. They're very harsh. They actually are toxic to the fungi, both the saprophytic fungi and also the mycorrhizal fungi. They're toxic to the bacteria in the soil. Chemical fertilizers are a Band-Aid that was used in agriculture to fix a problem that started with the tilling of the soil and the destruction of the organic matter in the soil. And what we want to do is not even do the things that caused them to have to use the Band-Aid in the first place. So we don't want to disrupt the ground. We don't want to till the ground. It's not even a good idea to grab weeds and just rip them out of the ground, roots and all. If you don't want to plant in a certain place, the best way to do that is to just cut off the part of the plant that's above the ground and leave the roots that are below ground intact. Just leave them alone. You might have to cut that plant 2 or 3 or more times before it finally dies. But eventually, if there are no green leaves, a plant will die. Any kind of plant, doesn't matter what it is. If it doesn't get energy from photosynthesis from its leaves, eventually the roots will die. And if you leave them in the ground, they will decompose and they will become what's called compost tunnels. And the roots of other plants will then actually grow right down through the tunnel created by the dead and decomposing root of the previous plant. So we don't want to disturb the ground. We don't want to throw toxic chemicals on the ground. What we want our fungi to experience is lots of sugars getting pumped into the ground because that's what they feed on from the plants, and lots of moisture in the ground because all life needs water. All life needs moisture. So we want to encourage as much shade as possible in our garden. We do that with all 7 layers of the food forest. So we want to get our trees planted out as early as possible when we're starting to plan and build a new food forest. Get those trees in the ground. That's what I do. I put my understory trees in the ground first. I select the sites where they're going to get the proper amount of sun exposure. Usually they need a lot of sun. So I'm going to get those trees in the ground first. After that, I can start to place my shrubs, and I can look at where I place the understory trees to decide where my shrubs are going to go and where they're going to get enough sun. And once all these things start to get put into place and grow a little bit, you're casting more and more shade. And also you can use plants like this Mexican sunflower here. All these Mexican sunflowers. And they cast a lot of shade. As you can see right here, they're casting pretty good shade. Got a lot of dappled shade here. And that's the other thing too. I think the best way to plant a food forest is to plant in an area where you already have some canopy trees in place. And that's what we've done here with these live oak trees and these sand live oak trees over here. As you can see, there's still a lot of dappled light. There's a lot of sunshine. So there's plenty of sunshine, especially back in this area, for our understory trees. And some of them will eventually grow big enough that they'll be over 30 feet tall. So they'll be canopy trees too. I'm talking about, in this case, we're talking about our chestnuts and our American persimmons, and possibly some of these mulberries may eventually get that size to where they're over 30 feet tall. Probably not though. And I like to plant a lot of fruit trees that don't get that tall, like the Japanese persimmons don't get that tall. The loquats eventually could get 30 feet tall. Loquat is a pretty big tree, but it takes a while for it to get that size. Figs here, like these, they're definitely not that tall. They're much shorter. So anyway, so understory trees and shrubs, get them all in place, get some shade going. Get the right balance of sun and shade. As you can see here, we've got some shade, some dapple shade here and there. But I'm gonna have enough sun for these raspberries, I believe, and I'm gonna have enough sun for these blackberries right here. There's gonna be plenty of sun for these figs, and plenty of sun for these blackberries over here, and this mulberry tree. Over the years, the garden will get shadier and shadier, so some of the lower plants, the shrubs, and some of the herbs will begin to get shaded out. At that point, some of the food production may decrease, but the soil moisture retention will get better and better. And the big trees will produce better and better because they're going to have a more robust mycorrhizal network to work with. So don't harm them. Don't harm the fungi with chemicals and mechanical disturbance, tilling and ripping things out as much as possible. And encourage as many growing plants and green leaves as possible, so you're pumping all the sugars in the ground for the fungi, and encourage moisture retention with the right amount of shade. Another way we're not disturbing the soil is we're creating pathways, like this pathway that I'm walking down here. Create your pathways and use those to get around your garden, do the things you need to do. But whenever possible, and it's not always possible, but whenever possible, try not to step in these areas, like where I'm showing right now. We've got a lot of plants planted in here, and I have to get in here sometimes. Obviously, I had to get in here to plant all these plants in the ground. And if I need to get in and do some pruning and maybe drop some mulch in place, I'll step in there and do that. But just as a general course of day-to-day working in the garden, I generally don't want to step in these areas. I want to leave this ground as undisturbed as possible so the saprophytic fungi can work on all this mulch, and then the mycorrhizal fungi can get those nutrients and move them around, and I'm not compressing the soil all the time by stepping on it and walking on it. So that's an important thing. Here's a path that's got frog fruit, just solid and frog fruit, all this. It's a nice pathway here, and so I'm trying to get all of my pathways converted to nice ground covers like frog fruit and sunshine mimosa, and eventually I'll probably get some perennial peanut in here. And we've got the buffalo clover that's also taking over some of the pathways. So that's another thing. You just don't want to compact the soil. That's not good for the fungi, and it's not good for water retention in the soil. So again, we're not hurting the fungi with chemicals. We're not hurting them by mechanically disrupting and killing them. We're encouraging all the layers of the food forest and all of the sugars that they pump into the ground. We're encouraging the right amount of shade so that there's water retention. In the early years of your food forest, you might have to water more. You will have to water more than you will later. So here's another little patch of ground right here that I generally don't step in. I've got it mulched really well, and other than that, if I need to get through this area, I try to take these pathways and go around it and not step in that area. You can see I've got pathways all the way around that one. And then here's another whole area that I generally try not to step in, but I let all this mulch decompose, and I let all these plants grow without their soil getting compacted all around them. So yeah, those are the considerations. That mycorrhizal fungi is super important, and give them the sugars, give them the water. They will then take all the nutrients that they can find, the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, iron, calcium, magnesium, on and on, all of the little micronutrients that plants need. They can find all that and they can move it around the network, and the fungi seem to know where those commodities, I'll just call them, they seem to know where the commodities need to go and what roots they want to swap them with. They get their sugars from the roots, but they give the plants those nutrients, the water, and also hormones that are used, the plants use for their own defense. Plants will pump themselves up with certain compounds via these hormones and protect themselves against pests. So this even helps with pest management. If we can get our mycorrhizal fungi really robust, undisturbed, lots of moisture, lots of sugars, this is the way to go. So it's just nature's way. In the forest, you don't have anything disturbing the mycorrhizal fungi in the natural forests. And in your food forest garden, you want to mimic that process to as much extent as possible. I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments. And that's it for now, everybody. Happy gardening.